Andrew Tarkovsky is spoken of amongst fans of cinema as one of the most well-respected directors of all time. There is an unmistakable air of importance around Tarkovsky because he is unlike any other director, past or present, and offers brilliance in ways that others haven't been able to replicate since. Stalker, along with Aguirre, The Wrath of God, Throne of Blood, The Shining, and The Passion of Joan of Arc were a run of films I watched in early 2022 that were integral in my decision to expand my cinematic tastes and to take this passion of films and try to create something out of it. This has led to many months worth of podcasts with great and intelligent guests, and now my first video essay. Over this time period, I've had the pleasure of watching each and every feature-length film that Andrei Tarkovsky has created and have ranked them here for your viewing pleasure. What better way to start the video than perhaps with one of the most iconic and famous movies of Tarkovsky's filmography, Stalker. This was the first movie I've seen from Tarkovsky, which for a director of his ilk, mainly those who are deeply symbolic and very interpretative, the first movie watch can be a daunting task for the film to carry. Fellow Tarkovsky fans and I feel that this is possibly the best choice for those dipping your toes into the Tarkovsky filmography because it is one of the more accessible films in some of its essential points, a lot more so than some of the other entries on this list. I was blown away by this film. The sepia filter as the display of this authoritarian landscape and the astonishing use of color in the zone created a stark contrast and an instant intrigue. Character motivations and philosophies give you so much to wrap your head around that its glacial pace is welcome because it gives you time to marinate. It's the type of thoughtful movie that nearly a year after watching, I see theories and points being made online that completely recontextualize the significance of this movie in my mind. Genuinely, an interpretation of the ending added a layer of significance to this movie that blew me away and made me want to watch this classic once again. My initial rating of this film is 4.5 out of 5 and ranks third on my list of Tarkovsky films. And definitely is one of the highest candidates of any film that deserves an additional viewing. To switch up pace, rather than going to the second movie I've watched, I'm going to follow up with the first movie that Tarkovsky shot, that being Ivan's Childhood. This is one of the last movies that I'd seen of Tarkovsky's filmography, so I'd built up quite the expectations for what a quote-unquote Tarkovsky movie should be. This is one of the few movies that Tarkovsky was not giving writing credit for, as it is based upon a short story instead. While this movie doesn't get as prophetic or theoretical, it still feels very distinctly his. But this movie is possibly the least Tarkovsky movie in Tarkovsky's filmography. The use of a young child in a wartime movie leads to immediate questions and is a hook for the audience. And the metaphor this film draws upon are certainly there and come together to make a great film. But to use a quote I'm quite fond of, and that possibly I'm the only person that uses, while I love them all, this is my least favorite son. Altogether, this is a 4 out of 5 stars for me and ranks 7 out of 7 in my ranking. Rather than continuing in any other reasonable order, I will next rank and rate the last film that Tarkovsky would make during his lifetime, which of course is The Sacrifice. Now, it is not entirely essential to learn about the ins and outs of the personal life of Andre in order to appreciate his films, but this is one in which it would help. Filming of this took place in Sweden rather than his homeland of Russia, which he had taken exile from due to the USSR's lack of funding and backing of his projects, including the Russian government's lobbying to have one of his previous movies, Nostalghia, a film they would not fund, prevented from winning the prestigious Palme d'Or. Tarkovsky would use Ingmar Bergman's crew and members of his famous acting troupe, as well as make his final movie, which is an illustration of loss and also spiritual awakening, all of which must have been very prevalent in the mind of Andrei Tarkovsky, as he would perish only 7 months after the release of this film from lung cancer. Seeing this nearly metaphorical, autobiographical film was amazing to see and digest. My initial rating of this film was a 4.5 out of 5 and ranks 4th amongst the films of Tarkovsky's on this list. To follow up this film, I would like to go with 2 more controversial picks of mine, or I guess the order of their ranking. And the first of these 2 will be Mir. Mir was a picture that had my head swimming nearly its entire runtime and left me lost until I read the description of the movie on the Amazon movie page after I'd finished. Only then did I start to piece together what this film was about, and did they start to fall into place in my mind. Mir is perhaps one of Tarkovsky's most personal films from a filmography that is fraught with personal films. It is part autobiographical for Andrei's childhood and included poetry from Arseny Tarkovsky, Andrei's father. The non-linear and abstract telling of the story did make it a hard nut to crack, and limited my ratings so far just because there were many things I didn't understand. But what I was able to feel and what I saw was breathtaking, to say the least, and was still great in my opinion. This film rated a 4 out of 5 in my mind and ranked 5th in my rating out of 7, of course. Now that we are a little over halfway done with this ranking, I'd like to ask that you like this video and subscribe to the channel whilst clicking the bell besides the subscribe icon. This will allow you to be alerted the next time a video comes out. I do weekly podcasts and have more videos like this one planned, so your support is greatly appreciated. Also, feel free to comment your rankings as well as anything I missed or anything you'd like to add. The next controversial rating, which I say with quotation marks because depending on which side of the fence you're on, you may agree with or may not, is Andrei Rublev. Rublev was a narrative that felt approachable and accessible to me. Andrei Rublev was a fresco painter with which I went into this film with no knowledge of, but came out feeling a deeper understanding of, for both Rublev and Tarkovsky. The struggle of an artist is really the tale that is on full display with this movie, and a need for reinvigoration in the artist. Also, Chapter 6, The Raid, includes one of my absolute favorite pieces of Tarkovsky's works. Possibly, and quite arguably, one of his best scenes. It is a mass raid that shows cinematography of large-scale assembly, the likes of which only Kurosawa, one of my all-time favorites, could rival. For a biopic, this film feels deeply personal to Tarkovsky himself, as though it is inspirational to him and or meant to parallel and depict aspects of his own life. Ultimately, Andrei Rublev ranks as my favorite movie and rates a perfect 5 out of 5 stars for me. The second to last film I'd like to talk about is Nostalgia. This movie was the first film that I think truly allowed my mind to go wild with after watching, in search for the truest meaning to me, and another movie I felt would be ripe for rewatch, of which potentially all of Tarkovsky's movies are. Nostalgia spoke to me again through a lens of being from the life of its director, i.e. that Tarkovsky's political struggles with his home country would loom large over the themes of this movie. Nostalgia was Tarkovsky's first film made outside of the USSR, and the movie plays like a reflection on this, as well as a heartfelt goodbye. These mixed emotions bleed through to themes of freedoms and our perceptions of the past, and ask meaningful questions as to whether freedom is a notion that we can never truly capture, and that a free future may never hold a candle to the nostalgic memories of our past. Nostalgia was a meaningful movie for me, with a terrific ending that I rated a 4.5 out of 5, and despite my love, only ranks 5th out of 7. I mean, this is Andrei Tarkovsky we're talking about. Last but not least is Solaris. I watched this probably within a few months of Stanley Kubrick's famous 2001 A Space Odyssey, a movie that absolutely blew me away and became instantly one of my favorite movies. And Solaris instantly started an internal debate as to which one was better. Anyone who has seen both will instantly feel, I know I've been saying instantly a lot, the similarities between the two. And while I currently have 2001 ranked above Solaris on my all-time favorites list, it's worth a double feature some night in the future just to be sure. The colorfulness is a kind of faded shade of its former self on the screen, a visual distinction that plays into the themes at hand, whether intentionally or not. The sentient planet that creates from the memories and dreams of the inhabitants who come near it possesses questions of reality that are as groundbreaking and interesting to think about as the first time I saw Christopher Nolan's Inception. For all of these reasons and more, I rate Solaris a 5 out of 5 and rank it as my second favorite Tarkovsky movie. I hope you enjoyed this list, and just to recap, because of the order we went into, from 1 to 7. Number 1, I have Andrei Rublev. 2, Solaris. 3, Stalker. 4, The Sacrifice. 5, Nostalgia. 6, Mir. And 7, Ivan's Childhood. And you can find this list and many more on my Letterboxd profile, which is linked down in the description below. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out the channel for numerous podcasts about your favorite directors and movies. And thanks for joining, everyone. I will catch you on the flippity floop. Bye, y'all.